do a live recording, see how that goes. If anyone decides to join us along the way for this journey, if we will, you're more than welcome to. But this is Dark Frost, that's Flowdrive, and we're Neon City Gaming. Take it away.
Oh man, that was beautiful. Also, I have to bring up that we want to cut down on the forward and back momentum because all throughout that intro, all I heard was it was like two kaiju going at it in your back room. Welcome to Twitch Neon City Gaming, because this is going to be our first attempt at recording a live episode, and we're going to chop it up, put it on YouTube. And tonight, if you're joining us, you are going to be in for me talking about a lot of Gundam. So I got Dark Frost to watch a Gundam series, and we took some notes. We're going to talk about it, go over it, a review of sorts, what we like, maybe didn't like about it. But I say that I was enjoying it. I enjoyed it. Did you just... First impression out of the gate, did you like it? Did you enjoy watching it on Netflix?
First impressions as a whole, not real
as
first impressions.
Not like real first impressions, but like just an overall.
As a whole, yeah, I can agree to that. Then, yeah. I mean, if we're just doing like the overall first impressions, I enjoyed it. It was parts of it were visually interesting, but there were other parts that were not. But we'll get to that.
No, it was all visually interesting, visually good. That's up for debate. I was never bored looking at the screen. So
slightly disturbed at times, but you know.
Gundam Requiem for a Vengeance, for those who don't know, came out on Netflix here recently, and it's available for streaming on the platform, and it's only 6 episodes. And if you are interested in it at all, I would say give it a shot. The 6 episodes are like 30 minutes apiece. It's definitely worth at least watching the first couple of episodes to see if it's your bag. If you're a Gundam fan, you definitely got to check it out. I mean, this is coming from someone who watched G Savior. If you don't know what that is, you are blessed, and don't look into it.
I mean, not even if you're a good Gundam fan, if you're a mecha fan in general, like if you like big robots, like there's some good mecha porn going on in this series.
So Dark Frost, before Gundam Requiem for a Vengeance, what was the last Gundam series you actually watched?
All the way through?
Yeah, or I mean, just if you checked out one of the newer ones. Like, what's the last series, the last Gundam that you've had an encounter with?
The last anything Gundam I've watched was, I watched the first 20 minutes of Thunderbolt, or Lightning, or whatever it's called. The movie.
Thunderbolt.
Other than that, I don't really watch much Gundam anime these days, because it's all super robo, like G Gundam and beyond, where they're like in space flying around and like the heart of the cards, more or less, and I just don't care about that part of Gundam. I like the mecha side of it. I want the more big robo or mecha, not the super robo, like extra anime, if that makes sense.
So there was Thunderbolt. Thunderbolt was UC Gundam, Universal Century. It was really grounded. Well, I mean, as grounded as Gundam gets. And but then there was Gundam Unicorn. That was UC Gundam. That was really good. Hathaway was fantastic. That's UC Gundam. You'd like that one.
I haven't seen those, so yeah, I can't comment.
So it opens up the opening scene, and I guess I shouldn't critique it in the opening statement, but it's Zeon forces, and they're marching to take on this Federation base. It's on Earth, so Zeon is already on Earth. What kills me is they're going to capture this Federation base, and they're in parade formation, just marching, no tactical like deployment or anything else, just like in a parade line towards.
That's what episode was. Like the point of episode 1 was them trying to take over the base. I thought they were defending. I didn't know they were assaulting. I must have
very first scene
before the Halo jump.
Yeah, but before the mobile suits are even introduced, it's just Zeon tanks, armored personnel carriers, and then people marching on the street.
Okay.
And they're all walking towards this base, this Federation base, to take it over. And then all hell breaks loose because the Federation launches an ambush on this just buffet of Zeon forces. Because if you remember, that's the very first time that the cliche that we picked up on that happens just throughout the entire series. Which I guess this is a good enough time to say, spoiler alert for the entire thing. But the cliche that happens throughout the entire video, the first time it happens is literally within the first 3 minutes. Because that guy is talking about, oh man, I've only got one more tour, and I get to go back home.
I get to retire in 2 days.
I get to retire in 2 days. Blah blah blah. And oh man, I can't wait to leave this war and have this happy life. And then literally the first like person to take a bullet in the entire series is that guy, just taken out.
Well, not to mention them marching towards them assaulting a base in march formation rather than an assault formation or something like that. Also highlights one of the biggest problems with the Xeon in this series as a whole is they're not the best tacticians at all. Like, this series wouldn't happen if they were better tacticians. But I mean, I think that's just a issue with Gundam writing in general. But
I mean, that's just this is the force who are like, man, we really got to make the opening blow of this war really, really strike a nerve. So they drop a colony. They commit multiple war crimes before the series even really begins. So that opening scene,
the opening scene was badass. That's all I wrote down was epic opening. That's what got me hooked to, like, okay, you're not completely blowing smoke up my ass. This might actually be good.
Yeah, because you get introduced to the Xeon forces get ambushed by the Federation forces. Tank on tank battle, lots of close-in fighting, machine gun fire, ground forces. They call in the Zaku that drop in from these Gao assault carriers that are flying above the formation. Awesomeness ensues. You get to see the MS-06 Zaku 2s come in. I think they're F-types. And it is beautiful on the mech side. I will say we'll use that for first impressions on visuals. The human the humans, not the greatest. As far as like animation and character models.
You know that weird aspect when AI art is like kind of glassed over, where it's like
it's overly filtered.
Yeah, it gives them that Voldemort kind of look almost, where they have like no nose, and it's like a really 2D flat scene as opposed to a full-on 3D face. But you're right. Yeah, the mechs before that look great. Like, especially like when they're getting ready to Halo jump in, and it just shows like them locking all their gear up and rotating into position, and it's a bunch of mechanical engineering kind of like.
Oh yeah, visual. It is straight up. It is so for people like me, Gundam fans like me who are more into the suits, the mechanical, the like gritty militariness of it, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
like the real robo part.
The real robo / semi hard science or hard sci-fi.
Yeah, that hard sci-fi. So like I'm watching the move into position, drop, shoots, deploy. I'm like, yeah, Federation throwing up anti-aircraft fire. The whole opening scene, fantastic. And while most of the character models that we were making fun of, they look kind of off, I have a lot of tolerance for that because I remember watching MS Igloo back in the day, and those were some like those character models were like some guy with a Barbie doll and a green screen. That's so these were vast improvements. But I will say that the main characters, the character actors, looked better than the like rank and file, just background NPC characters.
When they were on screen, the series had the issue of we spent all the money on. You could tell it was different teams that worked on this because they had the one team that was doing the main mecha part, and they spent the most money on that part. Of course, makes sense. Then there was the main character front and center of the camera model, and then of course because you had their B model for when they're like further back or in a side scene, and then of course then you had all the the scene characters, pretty much that one dude that the medic was talking to, where his face just disappears as he looks up into the screen. It was
there were some moments like that. So I know we're going to be jumping around, so we're not going to go in order for episodes.
I was about to ask, are we going to do episode?
We're not going to go episode by episode because we don't want to give a synopsis. This is just our thoughts and feelings on the show. And while we're talking about character animation, character models, I do want to bring up that two major things that just really, like, every time I saw it, I was like, I can't unsee this, and it's bothering me. It's drilled into my skull, and it's living here. Number one is all of the characters have, like, mono teeth, where it's just, like, one model or one.
Yeah, where it looks like it's a mouth guard.
Yeah, it looks like everyone's wearing a mouth guard with slight indentations in it. Does that make
See,
sense?
I didn't realize that, but thinking I wasn't staring at anyone's mouth. For that
How
long,
could you
know?
not? I mean, it was for me. It was like
Normally, when I'm looking at the models, I'm normally looking at the eyes, the skin texture, the hair, the way the body animates and everything. I don't really pay attention to the mouth unless like they're doing a lot of unless you're just standing there talking. And if it's doing a lot of dialogue, then I'm noticing it because it's like, okay.
But I mean, Unreal Engine 5 it did some work. Do not get me wrong. It's not an engine thing. It's just they chose to do that weird mouth guard thing with the teeth. Now that might be a me thing. Literally anyone else who watches this, if you notice that at all, let me know so I don't think I'm completely crazy. But if not, it's not a deal breaker. Something that was more impactful, the second thing I'm talking about character models and animation, is there is a very dramatic scene where our heroes are like, are we going to make it off the planet alive? They're in this escape vessel that's being launched up into space, and you see there's this like dolly shot on a high camera looking down at people strapped in, and there are multiple rows of seats. And you see the main characters. Each character is individually designed, and like it's very obvious. What's it written there?
Copy paste clones.
Copy paste clones. It's very obvious, like main character syndrome. This is where all the cool kids are sitting, and then literally every other person on that huge escape vessel is the same guy with the same mustache.
One of the rows was the same dude all the way across.
That's what I'm saying. No, every other person on that vessel was that guy with the mustache. It was the same character model.
And it had, I feel like I wouldn't have noticed it so bad if it was just every other, but then it was like, it started off every other person, then that one row in the middle was nothing but him.
It was just
and
like
then
16 of the guy.
And I'm just like, yeah, he outnumbered whoever started that trend of that mustache must have been really popular, because it was popular as hell in that shit, let's just say. Unless it's like the what was it, the Great War or whatever, where all the officers had the little mustaches and the big curly Q mustaches, and it was all very posh.
Everyone saw this is the Gundam universe, so everyone saw how awesome Ramba Ral looked with his mustache, and everyone's like, I want to be like Ramba. Let's grow a stash, but no one could grow a stash like Ramba, so they all have this weird pencil mustache.
See, I don't know what his mustache looks like. I know what his goof looks like, but I couldn't tell you what he looks like.
That's okay. All you have to know is it's no Zaku boy. No Zaku.
I'm a big goof guy. But again, I like the giant.
You are a big goof.
I am a big goof. But the color, and then also the fact that they had that big chain gun and the heat hawk, or the heat saber, I mean.
Oh, the goof custom?
Yeah, that's my favorite. One of my favorite like old school mechs.
Speaking of character design and animation, any characters that stood out to you?
I mean, the main character, she was definitely the followed the archetype of. She looked like a femshep from like Mass Effect.
She had strong femshep vibes. Femshep. Not a bad thing.
Meets.
I like her hair clip because she's supposed to be a violinist. Like she's an ace Zaku pilot, but she had that.
They did do a decent job of trying to show that these are people, not just mindless drones or whatever. But yeah, no, she's a cool character. And then another character that stood out a lot was the I hated him, but if he ever gets a live action version of him, it's Peter Stormare is going to play him. But it was the recycling commander captain dude. He was such an asshole.
I mean, name an officer, a Xeon officer in that show that wasn't incompetent asshole. The other Zaku pilots I thought were really cool, really well designed for how long you get to know them.
Most of them that episode. The other one gets 3 episodes, I think. Oh no,
LaShawn?
No, LaShawn makes it all the way to the end. That's right. Okay, yeah. Forget
LaShawn makes it all the way to. He doesn't make it all the way to the end, but
well, I mean, to the end episode, right?
No. LaShawn gets taken out in a GM, I think. No,
okay,
no. It was the heist episode. It was the heist episode.
This is the kid that kills him.
He shows up in a Zaku to help them steal the gem, and I think he gets cored by a beam rifle or beam saber.
Yeah, he gets by the kid. She sees the kid. I know we're like, no one's like able to follow what we're talking about now because right now we're just talking about like minutiae of the episode.
So yeah, like LaShawn, you get to know LaShawn. So there's the Zaku aces are Iria, LaShawn, and then two other
Meat
guys.
Paste and well, I guess the other guy got. They all four technically get. Well, there's only four people. They all three technically get cored.
They do
In one way or another.
So before we get into that, one thing I will say that this show suffers from, just from a narrative perspective, that's a really weird choice. You know how when you're watching a show or a movie and they set something up and then it's like, oh hey, this is a safe area, nothing crazy is going to happen because we're having dialogue, or we're in a safe place, the characters, there's no threat, and then the movie does that thing where it like jump scares you with, oh no, something happens, or someone's in the middle of doing something and then this happens. That happens multiple times every episode.
Yeah,
in this show. And so you come to expect it. It does it enough that in 6 30-minute episodes, you come to expect that if you feel safe, something bad is about to happen.
Yeah, it's very tropey. I mean, because it always happened where it'd be like,
just like in that first like,
hey, this
3
is a
minutes.
nice drive we're having, and then suddenly a tank pops out and blasts the other dude. Like, it was trying to do a Game of Thrones, Walking Dead, like modern thing where it's like, okay, we're not afraid to kill people. Like, you could, like, this show is mature. People are dying left and right, and I don't think it's that gory. Like, it's not very visually.
It's not that gory, except for that one scene that we'll talk about. And even then, it's not like overly gory. It's just I went back and watched it frame by frame because I thought I saw something. It's pretty crazy. But
so
like,
the being oil or whatever.
So they take over that base at the first episode that they're trying to get into, because Xeon is like, hey, we need to take over that base. Federation is like, ambush. And Xeon forces are like, oh no, woe is us, and our ability to not march in a straight line all packed together. Call in the Zaku's. Zaku's come down. We get introduced to all the pilot characters. They save the day.
The very badass scene of them Halo jumping.
Yeah, it's a bad. All the mech scenes are pretty cool. But they take over the base. Well, that night you get introduced to the Gundam shows up that night. Now they don't know that they're fighting a Federation mobile suit. The pilots scramble. They just know that they're under attack, right? And this dude whose name I can't even remember comes around. He's like, all right, Captain Solari, I'm ready to go. I'm in my Zaku. And just a pink beam rifle just goes straight through the chest, right where the cockpit is, obliterates, comes out the back. It does a really great job. That's one thing, and I will say, we'll go into it in a moment, this show does really well. It shows the devastating force mobile suits and mobile suit weapons can enact on a battlefield, because it shows that beam just go straight through the frontal armor of the Zaku, core the pilot's instantly evaporated, blows up the back armor, and then it shows the beam continue on and destroy like terrain and collateral damage.
The only issue I had with that, though, like overall, I think that was excellent, but it didn't really have much of a. It didn't really show why the Gundam's armor was better and why it was just soaking the same stuff that the Zaku's were getting torn apart like tissue paper.
So that
could have been better, but because otherwise it's just like, oh, like this thing just looks different, and all of its armaments are like somehow 3,000 or 3 times as strong as our stuff. So like even a rocket doesn't even scratch the paint. So like they should have had more damage to the mobile suit. I felt like the shield. I feel like the shield should have been damaged a lot of times in that show. Maybe that was just a laziness on the animation part. I don't know, or if it was a story decision.
All right, so let's since you brought it up, let's get into the feel of the actual Gundam versus the Zaku's, and this. So the entire show is from Zeon's perspective, right? So for the longest time, Xeon has enjoyed the technological step up in warfare because they've had mobile suits. The Federation has not had mobile suits. And so these Zaku's are just stomping all over, and the Goofs just stomping all over everything the Federation has. So you see in the opening episode, you see the Zaku's just shred through Federation tanks and armored personnel carriers and gun lines. There's just nothing they have to fight.
Well, they had no mobile suits whatsoever on the Federal side at the beginning of the show.
That's the thing. The Federation, as far as Xeon knows, the Federation has no mobile suits.
Which makes no sense. So they go straight to Gundam and then made crappier things after that. They're like, oh, here's the Gundam, and then make the mass.
So the Gundam.
And it's like, okay, well, we still have the God vehicle that's armor. I mean, this is the part where it becomes like the whole plot armor and show and all that stuff. But
so Xeon Tech is made by the company Xeonic. The Federation Tech is made by a company called Anaheim Electronics. And the Gundam, or at least in the original series, the Gundam was an experimental. It's RX experimental 78. The Gundam is an experimental mobile suit, so it's got a bunch of stuff that you wouldn't mass produce because it'd be way too expensive to mass produce. The gun cannon,
that's why I figured
the gun cannon and the gun tank, the original gun cannon, gun tank were experimental suits as well. And so in the original series, the 0079 Mobile Suit Gundam back in the 70s, the Zaku's ran into the Gundam for the first time on the colony, and they're hitting it, and their bullets just aren't doing anything to it at range. And to keep that in perspective, those machine guns are 120 millimeter. The Zaku machine guns are like fully automatic main battle tank guns.
But that doesn't mean much in the show. I mean, that's not like real life where, that's a big round. In the show, it's like a pea shooter for the most part.
Well, but it does take out like bridges on battleships. It takes out tanks super easy, other vehicles, aerial vehicles.
If it does that, like I said, it should do more damage.
Okay, so what I'm saying is
Gundams than they do. Like, unless I know it's made of unobtainium or whatever.
It's in the original, it's just lunar titanium. I say just lunar titanium.
And that's half the reason why I definitely stopped caring about the show as time goes on, because it becomes more of that, like, everything's unobtainium and it's like everything's super and everyone's a new type, and it's like it loses all of the titanium. It loses all for me, the luster and the appeal of what makes a good mech show. Is the actual mech side of it. Now it's like we're in fantasy territory, and it's like, okay, yeah, this thing can pull 0G maneuvers. The person inside doesn't die or get passing out because he's a.
That's just all mobile suits in general are all.
Well, I just meant like because you're in space, they're going even faster. Like in space, they're literally like Star Warsing it up, going, like on the later shows, like what is it, Gundam Seed and stuff like that, where it's just like it's just straight up anime, and that. So thankfully, this show doesn't have much of that. They do touch on it a little bit with the new type but at least in this, it's not too egregious. Like it's not. Well, I mean, there are some moments when it was, because they do make it. I'd say the biggest issue I have with this show, if I had to come up with my biggest complaint, would be the story, the writing, like. The characters are neat. The plot, the overall, like, the story set pieces are neat. But how they tie it together is just the weakest. Like, it's always like we're bad military people. We don't know how to set a perimeter on our base so we don't get taken out by one mobile suit. I mean, yeah, it could attack and they could be trying to. But like, you tell me every single truck, every single tank, he don't have that much ammo. He doesn't have that much fuel. Okay, come on now. But that happened in every episode too. It was always like, man, I wish we were actually a military instead of these dumbasses just sit around in uniforms all day. It was just really paper thin plot devices to get them to go forward, outside of her desire for revenge for her fallen comrades, and to eventually see her child again, which, spoiler alert, she goes against that.
So okay, you went through like a ton of stuff, so let's wind it back to what you were originally talking about. The Gundam is supposed to be, for all intents and purposes, a boogeyman, right?
But which they do a good job in this. From doing that, they do the coloring.
When they ran into the Gundam for the first time, because the Federation had no mobile suits, they never expected to have mobile suit on mobile suit combat. And even the Zaku was not designed to fight other mobile suits.
Which that in itself is still kind of stupid, right? Like, you don't build a tank and be like, ha, we have made the tank. No one else will be able to make copy our designs. Let's go out there, bring forth. No, that's just. I mean, again, that's writing
valid. That's valid.
These military tacticians are.
They thought that they were like years away. That there was no way
Oh,
that they
I'm
would
sorry.
have that kind of technology, especially that coming from Gundam. So Gundam shows up, the rounds are bouncing off of it, and they're like, "What the heck?" It's super maneuverable because it was designed. This specific one, the EX Gundam, is specifically designed to work in Earth's atmosphere with Earth's gravity. The Zaku's that they're piloting are F types. They were developed to fight in zero G, but they work in
See, that's why I always thought
gravity.
the difference between the suits was I always thought it was like, oh hey, the Gundam can move faster. That's its advantage. Is it's more dexterous and
It's
it's
also
more
up armored
speedy
like crazy. The
kind of thing.
RX-78 and
It's-
the EX Gundam are way more heavily
and
armored.
that's the part that bugs me because it's like, oh, we're making a Superman. Like you can't do anything against us. Ha ha
Well, because the
ha.
Gundam was specifically designed to fight other mobile suits.
And yeah, I mean, as if I was a fan of like, I guess my biggest issue with this
This
whole
is
thing.
all of your what you're saying is valid because not everyone who watches these shows are going to be hardcore Gundam fans. And I think they need to come out with shows, and I hope this show does get some new Gundam fans, but they can't expect people. So all of your comments are completely valid and helpful going forward to people who maybe want to get into Gundam and things of that nature, because you're confused because you're seeing this Zaku that has this massive fully automatic cannon.
I wouldn't say
just
I'm confused
bounce
because
around
I am an
off this
anime.
Gundam.
I've watched the anime, so I know some of these things. I'm just saying as like a in the show because I'm trying to I'm watching this without any not trying to bring the EU or whatever into this. Like it's its own thing. It doesn't
Oh, the
mention anything else.
non-UC Gundam.
Yeah, and I mean especially because it is its own thing. Like it does a lot of things that aren't originally lore specific or whatever.
Back to the Invincible Gundam. So that was one of your main complaints, is that the EX Gundam is just
But-
absorbing blows like crazy.
One of my major complaints was I was really rather than complaining about the show itself, I was really complaining about my long-term annoyance with the series with the IP.
Oh, you meant just
the
in
franchise.
general, and then
In
that
general,
this
I've
show
never
just
liked-
reinforced what you already don't like
Yeah,
about the other
'cause-
series.
I just don't like OP. Like I don't like OP. I want them to win because they were a better pilot, because they were better skilled, because they got lucky, because they got assistance from another. I don't want it because they have plot armor or because they have like I mean sure the other stuff is plot armor, but it's written better than just being like, oh, he's main character, ergo bullets don't hurt, you know. And I forgive it for the older animes because it was the 80s, 70s, 90s, you know. That was still big. It was still new. So like it's forgiven because they weren't just I guess what I'm saying is I'm jaded and everything's just a rehash of the rehash. We get it. Gundam Superman. Okay. He's going to come on there and go boom, 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 kill everyone and then save the day. You know,
So in the original
it's just-
novelization of
takes away some of the, like, I'll never feel fear or anxiety, I guess, for a Gundam pilot. It's like, oh, he's the main character. He's never going to, like, he's going to make it to the end of the show.
in the original
whatever.
novelization of the original Mobile Suit Gundam,
Get wildly off topic.
the RX-78 gets like 3 iterations. It's the RX-78-2, RX-78-3. Because Amuro gets 2 of them blown up. Well, technically 3 of them. The Gundam is not all powerful. It does take a lot of like damage, and like his shields are constantly getting blown in half. So the EX Gundam.
Yeah, I'm not saying it's like a what's that actor's name that can't get hurt? He's in Russia now.
Steven Seagal.
Yeah, I'm not saying he's like Steven Seagal where he can't take
The
any.
the Gundam is Steven Seagal. It's in his contract. He can't take any hits.
Now, okay, I want someone to. I want someone or you. Someone needs a Gundam with just a ponytail.
No, don't. No, that'll ruin everything.
That would ruin everything. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. But yeah,
No, I forgot what I was talking about. Oh, the EX Gundam being like
Wide
so.
tangent.
It's supposed to it's supposed to be that way. I get what they were going for. That the EX Gundam is supposed to be this new thing, and the armor just bounces Zaku machine guns, and also now it does. I will say one thing: the Gundam is always trying to be defensive. Like it doesn't overextend. It's constantly got its shield up, but that shield takes so much plot. That is a plot armor shield.
yeah, that's what I'm saying. That was my biggest issue of the show itself was the shield itself because yeah, it didn't look any thicker than the GM shield, and then yeah,
Well, I mean, the gym shield is based off of that shield, because that was just the prototype. But I mean, so okay, I get the 120, the Zaku 120 machine guns. That's fine.
But what about the bazooka?
Then the 280, it just shrugs off a 280,
Like-
a Zaku bazooka or a mobile suit.
Yeah, and maybe I would be less butthurt, or not butthurt, less salty about it if that actually did something. Like maybe if that, maybe he lost an eye from the explosion or whatever, and he just came back up and he had one missing eye. That would have been a cool shot.
So he does later. He actually does take damage once. Well, twice, but he takes damage once from a Zaku machine gun at point blank range.
The second time is the main time he takes damage. Am I right? Yeah, okay,
the main time he takes that. So, hey, we gave a spoiler alert.
Skip the next 5 seconds. He dies.
He dies hard.
He gets cored like
and
an
guess
apple.
how he dies? It's when they're trying to finally like have a moment, and you feel like the characters are safe, and there's an arc happening, and it's heat saber directly through the back and out the chest.
Wait, was it the saber? I thought he shot him with the beam saber, or the beam.
No, hit him with a
rifle.
heat saber. It was a goof. It was one of the Midnighters came up behind him and shanked him straight through the cockpit. Everything always happens directly through the cockpit in this. Also,
Yeah, they do go for a lot of. I mean, it is mid mass or whatever, but
first episode, beam rifle directly through the cockpit. That's what we're talking about. Like, they do a great job showing the damage. The combat, the mecha combat, mobile suit combat in this show is
fantastic,
beautiful, fantastic. I love the way the tracer
negativities about the character animations or facial structures detract from the actual meat and potatoes of it.
Oh yeah, no, it's cool as hell. But the tracer rounds are well animated. The bullets, the spent casings,
the little maneuver where they're like gliding along the ground, I guess you call it.
Yeah, a lot of that kind of stuff really gave me Gundam F91 vibes, and you've probably never seen F91.
I'm not familiar with that.
But one of the opening scenes in F91 is a mobile suit battle from the perspective of just people on the ground. And like these gun cannons or what's the name of that mobile suit? Think of a gun cannon, but instead of having cannons, it's got rotary cannons, like auto cannons.
Okay.
And it's just the barrels are rotating and shells are getting spent out, and it shows how big these shells are, and they're like the size of like barrels, and it's spending these shells. And there's this mom trying to escape the battle. She's got her baby, and one of these spent casings just knock her in the back of the head, kills her instantly. She falls down with her baby. The main characters pick up the baby. But I remember that being like, oh shit. And then like Hathaway does a really good job showing like just normal people on the ground witnessing these titanic battles. And there are parts of this that reminded me of that when they're showing how large these Zaku machine gun shells are when they're loading them up in the magazines, and the rockets that are on the legs, the explosions, things of that nature. They did a good job with the collateral, like showing what that does. And that beam weapon. Ooh. But then Cord with the beam weapon, they show like what happens in the aftermath. These things go off. The Gundam knocks down one of the sniper Zaku, and just fists the cockpit, just like punches into it.
Oh, we're back to the main topic, the Valkyrie, or not Valkyrie, the Vengeance.
Yeah,
okay.
Vengeance.
I was thinking we were still talking about the.
No, I was saying F91.
Okay.
Parts of this reminded me of F91 because of how brutal it can get. But that Gundam tackling that Zaku sniper to the ground, and then just Falcon punching the cockpit and caving the cockpit in. And
he didn't do it in one punch. He was like,
no, it was wham, and like it caves in the cockpit a little bit, but then he like shoulders into it, and just the fist collapses the cockpit completely, and he pulls the fist out, and there's just viscera coming off of his fist for like 2 frames. But you better believe I went back and watched that slow motion just to see.
Was it actually blood, or was it actually?
The attack happens at night. It's some shadowy liquid stuff coming off.
Do they have cooling fluids and oil pumping through the core of the machine? I don't know how the mechanics of the Gundam
work, but not through the cockpit.
I I mean, maybe cooling. I don't know how cooling works on internal cooling. Like,
there's always that cool. One of my favorite
I guess they
scenes
have
from
the
8th MS team where
tank.
that goof drives the heat saber into that. I think it's a gun tank, and oil splatters all over. It looks like blood.
Yeah, so I was wondering if it was that, or for maybe it's like it could be hydraulic fluid, or like
Yeah. Whatever it was in the cockpit, and that
Oh, and
pilot
then I was gonna say Zaku's have the cooling hose right there, right? That goes across the chest.
not in their chest.
I thought it came up and then like across.
Oh my
And
gosh,
like
do I
down.
actually have a? Wait, where are all my Zaku's?
I can't remember.
I've got a
I know it
new.
goes with
I just painted
nose.
another Warhammer army. Where did I put my Zaku?
They beat 'em
Okay,
up.
so this isn't 1-to-1, but we're gonna use this. So the cooling on the like waist, that's supposed to be his waist. Cooling and power cabling on the waist, and then up on the helmet, and then on the legs, which they aren't really like shown on my little plush.
It's on the elbow. Isn't it also on the elbow, like the elbow joint?
No.
One thing I will say we have forgot to, because we kind of, I kind of went way off my notes. I don't think I've used hardly any of these. The one character I did go to cycle back to the characters that stood out part. I completely forgot because we're talking about mobile suits, and she's not a mobile suit pilot, but the logistics chick, the girl with the tattoos all over her. She's got
Aaron?
purple hair. Sure, I'm bad with names, so yeah. The main chick with the tattoos.
I
all
think her
over
name was Arun or Arhun.
You can't miss her.
Arhun.
She was a cool character too. Interesting. Most of the characters were interesting. I mean, it still has, like most anime,
I like the characters.
very
Even
black characters,
pencil
one note
mustache
for the most
asshole
part.
McGee, who ran the junkyard. I thought he was relatively okay as a character. I mean, he's obviously made to be hated, but
Yeah, no, he plays the role he's supposed to be well. Like the asshole officer who is like, no, you won't do it your way, you'll do it my way, and I don't like your tone or whatever, that kind of thing. Like he does. Like I said, I want Peter Stormare if they ever do a live action, even though I hate live action adaptations of things.
So the last time we got a live action Gundam,
in
it
that.
was what I mentioned at the beginning of the recording, which was G Savior. We don't need to talk about G Savior.
Let's see if there's anything I really missed.
So what were you going to say about Arun? You just like her character design?
Yeah, no, I just think she's we were talking about earlier, characters that stood out. Like that was one of the characters who stood out, both visually and character-wise. I mean, she is one of the main characters, but I mean, she was cool. I thought I liked. At first, when I first saw her, I was like, "Oh, I'm not gonna like this character," because even though I liked her character design, I'm like, these people don't know how to write a fun character. They're gonna make her so tropey.
She's gonna be edgy and cliche, and she's tatted up head to toe. She literally has Xeon written all over her. She also has a facial tattoo. She has two facial tattoos. One of them is a Xeon symbol right underneath her eye, and the other one is something that is tattooed right above her eyebrow, on her eyebrow ridge. And we paused it in almost every scene she appeared, and we could never figure out what it said. It was like battalion or Batasian or potassium. Maybe she was a really big banana fan. I don't know.
Or maybe just had placeholder random text.
Placeholder text. I don't know. It was very stylized, and I could never make out exactly what it said. Neon hair, tats all over the place. Like, she's the last one in her unit. Her unit's been wiped out.
Well, she becomes the last one. Yeah,
she becomes the last one in her unit.
At first, when you meet her, they are the last of their unit. She's got a whole like convoy truck that she drives around. I'm pretty sure she's part of logistics. I would say visually stunning and entertaining, a sight to behold in certain scenes. However, it does fall very flat in terms of the writing and the story overall. You do see everything coming a mile away. It's a very standard I'm trying to get home story with a not surprising twist at the end. That said, the characters are fun, and if you could, kind of like most big blockbuster films or whatever, you kind of take your brain out and put it aside, and just enjoy a big dumb robot combat scenario kind of thing. It does do a good job. I will say it does do a decent job making you feel closer to these people, I guess, like making them feel more like people with PTSD and whatnot, as opposed to just like, hey, I'm a 16-year-old kid. Yay, we kind of thing. So
I think
so I'd say if you're a fan of mecha, if you're a fan of Gundam, if you're a fan of just short, sweet, concise little action flicks, because I mean it's really a mini series, even though it's 6 episodes. You could pluck 2 episodes together and make it 3 episodes. I say check it out. It's definitely worth the watch if you have Netflix.
what I really like about this is that it's a small story. It only takes place over the course of like 3 or 4 days, and there's no grandiose like we're winning the war with this plan, or if this doesn't work we're losing the war. It is, oh crap, we just have to survive. And the Gundam is this monster that is chasing them, and they're just trying to survive. They're trying to escape. They're trying to just get away from this thing. And it is like what Dark Frost said. It's a show about fear and the fear of losing, the fear of never getting back, and just war being this unstoppable force in the form of this EX Gundam. And I think it does that well. And I know we made a lot of fun of like character models, and then like the Gundam being nigh invincible. What really did it for me was when you see the gem for the first time with the Gundam, and LaShawn chases the GM and is just unloading rounds into this thing, and it just will not die. None of the Federation mobile suits will go down, no matter how much ammunition they throw at these things.
That did make 0 sense.
It did. The gem is running away from the Zaku, and the Zaku's just mag dumping into this thing. So it was really good. It got my recommendation. You need to watch it if you're a Gundam fan, or even mildly. If you just watch the cool mech fights, that I think that's worth it.
Yeah,
The episodes are only 30 minutes long. I mean,
it's only 3 hours of total content. Fun and cool. But if I had to boil it down to 2 words, fun
and cool. That's
cool.
what we want to be. That's what this channel wants to be. Is we just want to be fun and cool.
We're definitely one of those things.
One of those things.